in America, love us or hate us as a country, like, people care about freedom here. So that's why they're trying so hard to demolish America through things like the George Floyd protests and whatnot. That was my other question. Like, did they allow for BLM protesting there?
Absolutely. And that was the interesting thing.
Like, again, one of those obvious double standards.
Totally.
You protest this, but not this. If you protest this, you're a good person. If you protest this, you are a bad person. Like, it's all that double thing.
Yeah, but we're finding a lot of the same things that are happening here happen in the United States. And in the same way that the U.S. is obviously very pro-freedom, you find there are pockets of Australia that are very much like that. I'm in Victoria, and that has a reputation for being a very leftist leaning, and it's typically the leftists that are in support of state power, this kind of stuff. So they tend to be very, you must do as you're told, otherwise you're a buffhead. And we're seeing some of the most strict legislation. Well, the thing is that nothing's been enacted as such. A lot of people are under this idea that all the things being acted, just like in the United States, we're seeing the same thing here, that they're actually laws. They're not laws. It's just the thought bubbles of some leader like Daniel Andrews, who half of the population here I don't think really like that much anyway. And in the same way that, granted, there are some people that are advocating for these lockdowns, there are a lot of people that aren't. And just like with the George Floyd protests, you know, like, there are a lot of people that are probably thinking this is kind of crazy that there's this double standard taking place. I mean, you guys are saying that there should be no lockdown, that we shouldn't be able to have protests during this George Floyd thing, you know, but when it comes to people that are protesting against the government, now that's a no-go. So the police were essentially preventing anyone from protesting during the freedom protest and during the George Floyd protest, right? Because Black Lives Matter. Let's face it, black people, we're more important than you white people, and as a result, we have to the police have to be on our side. So I just thought, and the thing is, we saw the same thing happen in the US, right? I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. So there are a lot of parallels between what's going on here, and I think well, one, I know you guys have the same issue of mandatory. I can't even believe we're discussing this, Benny, but we were at a point, and I say, I'm not sure if we were at a point, speaking in the past tense is the right, we're still looking at mandatory vaccines, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. So because there's been such a public backlash, I mean, initially ScoMo came out and said, look, we're going to make these vaccines as mandatory as possible, and there was massive public backlash. And granted, the media's been trying to present that everyone wants this. There are only a small amount of conspiracy theorists, bullheads like you and I, that are in favor of people not being vaccinated. You'll find that there are actually quite a lot of people that think it's absolutely ridiculous. And this is the same issue, I presume, that you guys are experiencing in the States. What's happening with you guys having the discussion about the boom shakalaka?
Yeah. Yep, there's a lot of backlash, and it's the same thing. Yeah, they're trying to deem everybody who's even hesitant, not even, you know, that's the whole, all this is so maddening, because people aren't even anti-vax, they're just a little concerned with how rushed this vaccine is, and how untested, and some of the components of it, the mRNA aspect, and people are like, I don't know about this, and they're just being bludgeoned into submission. They're being, you know, ridiculed, and it's that groupthink again. So if you're even asking a question, you're not allowed to ask a question, and if you have one, then you are stupid, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're irresponsible, you should lose your job. So they're really pushing that bullying idea, but even in spite of that, even in spite of it coming from the government, the media, entertainment, etc., there's people who are not doing it. And I just read an article yesterday from the LA Times saying that upwards of 40% of first-line healthcare workers in LA County are saying no to the vaccine. And they're saying how, and then they say, well, the health experts are saying how dangerous, what a dangerous precedent that's setting. But I'm like, yes, there's still some, like, you know, fighting spirit and some reason and logic and necessary fear, you know, an appropriate level of fear, not fear of just, you know, your own shadow, which is kind of like how they rule us, but fear of like, hey, this experimental chemical compound, know if I want to put that in.
Sure.
Have that in spite of all the propaganda. That's really promising. So yeah, we have it, but I'm forever the optimist, and I'm hoping that this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. That people are going to, say no, and they're going to have to reroute and try to change their tactic.
What is liberty?
What the? Who says you can't build muscle on a vegan diet?
What's it like being a hottie in the vegan community? There are no political solutions, only technological ones.
The economics of the system don't allow multiple competing systems to survive.
Engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic.